Today we talk to
Sharon Kam.
Where are you from?
I am from Israel. I was born in Haifa and grew up in Tel Aviv.
Why did you choose the clarinet?
My mother is a violist and I heard music all my life, already in the belly. And I started to play the violin at 3 because she was learning to be a Suzuki teacher, and I came along and just played along. I couldn't do the violin very well. And at 5 I started the piano and I liked it very much, but I wasn't very good at it. And when I was 7, I started to play the recorders. And I loved the feeling of making music with blowing. And at some point my mother was playing chamber music, and it was Brahms' clarinet quintet, and they were very serious about studying this piece very well, so there were many rehearsals in our house. And I just fell in love with this instrument, with the color, with the sound, and I just said at 12, I want to play the clarinet, I want to play the clarinet. And of course, this being instrument number 4 already in my musical career, nobody took me seriously, and I needed to really ask for 6 months before my mother said, okay, if you really want, I get you a clarinet and you can start. And I fell in love with it immediately.
What is never missing from your clarinet case?
I have everything one needs to repair the clarinet from beginning to end. Corks, crazy glue, hot glue, all the springs, all the pads, of course a screwdriver, cigarette paper, and all the stuff we need to play, but also all the stuff one needs to repair a clarinet. I've had endless scary moments before a concert where the clarinet was just not functioning, and I am mostly able to find the problem and fix it. And I need, of course, all the tools to do that.
Can you share a piece of advice that changed your life?
A very good friend said to me once, don't forget to enjoy the view. It seemed unimportant at the time, but this is something I think about every day. We are running a race, trying to get better and better every day, practicing and enjoying the view, enjoying the concert, enjoying the success of the minute, of course, without stopping to try to get better all together, but still appreciate the work that has been done until the point is something that is very, very difficult for such perfectionists like myself. And I think about it every day to say, this was good today. Enjoy this small success. It can be a cake that I baked, or a success of one of my children, or even just a nice phrase, but to try to take the nice things that have happened in the day before struggling to be better tomorrow.
Do you have a daily routine?
I don't have a daily routine other than trying to practice every day, but I do have a concert day routine, which I stick to very religiously. I need to sleep before a concert. I'm very groggy in the concert if I didn't have at least 30 minutes to close my eyes in the day. I try to have a warm meal in the noon time and then close my eyes and sort of make a cut in the day, divide everything that's happened before the concert, and be fresh and happy to put on my makeup, my dress, and come into a concert mood. This is something that's very important to me, and my daily warm-up routine or practicing routine is not existing.
Can you tell us about your clarinet teachers?
My first teacher was Ilan Schul, and I was allowed to do anything I want and develop myself in any direction I wanted. I was already, as I said, almost 13, and I had my musical ideas already, but I still couldn't play the clarinet, and he was very helpful with that. I then went to Eli Iban, who was a very tough teacher, but put fundaments of playing the clarinet correctly sort of tamed my moving around a little bit. I was much more wild back then, if you can imagine, trying to explain to me how the body works and how one should use the body in order to play the clarinet and not get in the way of myself by moving around stupidly and changing the sound of the clarinet with the movement. I learned staccato, I learned legato, I learned everything basically I needed to have. And when I left at 18 to go to Juilliard, I studied with David Schifrin for 1 year. We discussed music for a whole year. He gave me the mouthpiece I'm still playing on today, basically, and set me up with a sound. And then he left Juilliard and I went to Charlie Neidig, who I stayed with for the rest of the 3 years I was at Juilliard for my bachelor's. And Charlie Neidig set me up with all the techniques of the world, breathing, tonguing, everything I needed to develop my career on. And I was already playing a lot of concerts and I didn't change immediately, but I learned a lot and I'm still using all these tools today.
What was it like to study with Charles Neidig?
Well, since I went to New York to study with David Schifrin, I did not look for Charlie Neidig as I studied with him, as I started studying with him, and I didn't know what I was to expect at all. I landed with the teacher who I exactly needed at that point of time, since he's a real clarinet scientist and he developed all these crazy techniques to the limits, if it's circular breathing or double tonguing, everything, which nobody really did back then. Since he studied in Russia for a while, he saw all these crazy things over there and some of the American sound and freedom and some of the German old clarinet making. So he was really looking for all the limits of the repertoire of the clarinet, all the limits of the instrument, and trying to expand them and expanding them, actually, not trying, really doing it. So he was extremely knowledgeable about scores, about techniques, about using the tongue, also not just for the tonguing, but also for the sound and the intonation. And he just knew everything. It felt like you were going to the encyclopedia of clarinet playing every lesson. And he always surprised with another direction, another idea. And it was just, for me, it was just unbelievable. I had not expected to learn so much from one person. And as I said, I'm still learning from him today. Still, I sort of remember things he said which did not make sense back then and do make sense today, some 30 years later. He was just the right teacher at the right time. I needed somebody to push me to do contemporary music, to push me to learn other techniques of playing, and it was fantastic for me.
Can you talk about the ARD competition and your prize?
I went to the IRD competition because Charlie Neidig said I have to. I would have never done it before. I had a management already in New York. I was playing concerts. I was sort of making a living by being a clarinet soloist. And he claimed I have to do this international competition thing, not just to get a prize, but also to experience having so much repertoire being ready at any particular time. And this is something that was important for the development of my career. I listened to him and went, which I'm very glad about. I would have not chosen to do an international competition on my own. I am not a competition type, and I didn't feel like I could win anything like that at all. I went, I felt like I was in a war zone for the whole time. You practice in a room, you close the door, next to you is another clarinetist, and you always feel like you're not as good as everybody else. You practice your brain off, the lips are in pain and the fingers are in pain and you can't even hear yourself anymore. And you try to play the best you can. You don't play for an audience, you play for a jury, so you get a number, you get a grade for what you do all the time, which is something that I was not used to at all. But I learned a lot, especially repertoire that I wouldn't learn otherwise. And I learned about just concentrating on your own thing and not letting anybody pull you off your trail, and trying to believe in yourself even in a situation where it seems impossible. The competition, of course, started my career in Europe. As I said, I had a management already in New York, but I was not existing in Europe at all. And after the competition, concerts started coming. I had a really fantastic development of everything, from a CD contract with Teldec Classics to performing with fantastic, great orchestras and fantastic conductors. There was just a need for me somehow, especially in Germany, but all in Europe, and I fulfilled it, and I always came prepared. I was always on top of things, and it went well afterwards. But as I said, I did not go to the competition in order to make a career. I went in order to experience what it means being in an international competition.
How did your solo career start?
I always try to go back and pinpoint when did it all begin. Very, very difficult. I actually played my first Mozart concerto with 15 with Israel Philharmonic and Zubin Mehta. So Zubin Mehta was very, very happy to have a soloist which was not a pianist or a violinist. And he was happy to have me. He liked me somehow. And so did Isaac Stern, who heard me in a concert in Israel, and so did Kurt Masur, who heard me in a concert in Tel Aviv. So I had some very, very prominent musicians looking after me before my career started. Then I left to New York, and Zubin Mehta still called me for concerts in Israel, in Toronto. I had a concert with him in New York also, but this was once a year. It was not a career. It was not making money. Of course, I got no money for all these concerts. But then Kurt Masur asked me to come and play Copland Concerto in Leipzig. I was still a student. And I won a competition in Juilliard playing Debussy Rhapsody, and I had the possibility to have a contact to a management she was very, very eager to have me and push me and see what one can do. It was a woman working for a woman, and she was very, very, very feminist, and it worked really strongly onto my side. And I started to play small concerts, small recitals, small orchestras, nothing big, nothing important. She put me together with a pianist in the management, and we played some recitals. And somehow the career developed very slowly, but it did. I did not make a lot of money, but I could pay my one-room apartment in New York, living still in a student standard. And after the IRD competition, I started getting real contracts, had a big management in Germany, and things really turned around. But my career did really start before the IRD competition, just by one concert after the other, climbing the ladder and getting good reviews and trying to really excel in what I do.
Have you ever felt any pressure from society due to being a woman?
My children's generation, my daughter especially, is infatuated by feminism and, well, freedom to all in society. I always thought I was a huge feminist. Well, a woman with a career, the first child I had at 25 while running around the world, second at 28 while still running around the world. And I thought I did it all, and I am the proof that everything is possible, and just go out and take it as a woman. You don't need to wait. But now I realize that I was a very tough lady. I did not let anybody touch me. I did not let anybody abuse me. And I did not play into any role. And on top of things, I had a husband who was a feminist and who supported me with everything. And everybody always asked me, how do you do it? Children and career. But he was never asked. And actually, he did 50% of all the work. So through the eyes of my children, I realized I had a very feminist, strong upbringing through my mother. and I had a very supporting husband. And all my environment said to me, you can do anything you want. But this is not the case for all the women of this world. So I did not have to fight, but it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a fight. I think there are many women in this world, many out there, who really still cannot do all they want, and that should be changed.
Can you talk to us about your soloist and chamber music life?
I love being able to do different things, not to go every day to work, but have to create my own goals and my own ideas to what I want to do. I love the fact that I can play a concerto and show off, and the next day go and play very intimate chamber music with very good friends. I really enjoy practicing more and more as I grow older, and really preparing new things, but also digging deep into pieces that I already played very often with new musical friends, or even old musical friends. When we meet after 1 year of not playing Brahms quintet with a quartet I play a lot, there is always new details which we are taking care of. And I really enjoy this profession, although I have no colleagues really that I meet daily. Some people would think you're very lonely, you are always working on your own. Yes, but actually I really like that. And I do not need to get up in the morning, dress up, go to work and come back home. I enjoy going into my practice room and seeing where it takes me on this particular day.
Is there any music that you haven't recorded yet that you would like to?
Well, I recorded a lot. 30 years of recording, that's a long time. But my biggest wish was really to make a Hindemith CD, which I just managed to do. Hindemith is not the most loved composer in the world and has a stigma of being square, uninteresting, and I love Hindemith since forever. So for me, this was a big dream that came true. And now I would love to do the Messiaen quartet, but I think also this is a piece that you need to be hearing live. It's not so interesting as a CD, so I'm still thinking about it. But I want to do a sonata CD with Horowitz sonata, which I really love and play a lot, and the Undinen sonata from Reinecke, which I discovered lately, and I find it works fantastically on the clarinet. It's very well known as a flute sonata, but he wrote himself a version for clarinet, which I think is fantastic. And so the question is, what does one combine to do a romantic CD and do a maybe a little bit more hip modern CD, maybe go into some jazzy things or whatever. I'm working on that, and it's keeping me busy, and I'm happy. I also have a partner who is also helping me, so we are going to try out. Corona is hopefully over soon, so we can try out some programs and see where we get.
You have played with the best musicians on earth. What did you learn from them?
Oh my God. I learned everything from all of them. It's fantastic to know more about string playing from the string players, also to listen to them working on bowings, on attacks, on breathing. Also, string players breathe. Surprise, surprise. Learning about breathing from string players is fascinating. Learning from conductors about how a concerto is built, what is going on in the orchestra part of a concerto, not just by listening, but also by having conductors bring different things out. Learning about rubato by being screamed at that I can't take so much time, and I still need my time. So how do I do it without getting anybody upset? Talking about musicology subjects, like some books from the time of Brahms and what is written about interpretation from those times, from A to Z, about family and life and enjoying music, and about working hard and about staying healthy in this profession for many years, from adult musicians. Now I am an adult musician, but I wasn't some years ago. How to stay alive, healthy and kicking in a profession that is trying to eat you up all the time. So not just musically, also about life, but especially just having to share very, very rare moments on a stage without talking? How do you make music on a stage? How do you communicate without words, having an instrument in my mouth, not being able to talk, just with your eyes, with your body, with your soul? How do you connect to people, and how do you make a very special moment in a concert, and finding out whether everybody felt that too, or was it only me? And what makes this moment transferred to the public? How do you do that? How do you not eat all the energy up yourself, but really take the energy and bring it to the audience? And this is something you can learn from other musicians much more than from yourself. And getting a feedback from people you trust, because we actually stop studying clarinet at a particular age, and you don't have a clarinet teacher which you meet every week, where you go and get a mirror of what you did the last week. So we are practicing and practicing and practicing. And how do we know we achieved something? When you play with your friends, when you play with a conductor that you know well, and they say, wow, I like that, or this sounds awful, then you learn.
Which one of your recordings has been the most memorable?
Not at the time, but reflecting back, I have reflected a lot onto my first concerto CD, which was Weber Concerti and Granduo Concertant with Kurt Masur and Leipzig Gewandhaus. Just saying that makes me feel sort of important. You can imagine I was a nobody, just starting my career completely. I had a fantastic exclusive contract with Teldec Classics, which was a very, very major label at the time. And Kurt Masur said, okay, well, I'm going to help you. We are going to make a CD, and it's going to look like you have been here forever and that you belong on the major stage, which is, of course, exactly what happened. He liked me, as I said, he really liked me, and he was fathering me a little bit. He was trying to make sure that I shine in my best colors. So he was very, very nice. He was very patient, and this was my first orchestra CD. I had no idea how that works at all. And I remember we recorded the second movement of the first concerto by Weber, and he stopped and said, Sharon, it's 10 years earlier than Freischütz, but there should be some connection to Freischütz. And in Freischütz, it's the horns. And, well, they cannot play so slow. I think you might actually look back and say, oh, that was too slow. So please trust me and let's take a quicker tempo. And I was a big, thick-headed person at the time, and I would have for sure said no to anybody else. But of course, to Kurt Masur, you say, of course, Mr. Masur, yes, sure, Mr. Masur. And I remember fighting. I needed time for the phrases. I needed somehow, it felt too quick all the time. And I decided inside myself, I'm not going to say anything. And of course, he was right. And of course, I never heard of the Freischütz before, ever. I was recording the clarinet concerto by Weber, and I never heard any other pieces by Weber other than the clarinet pieces, which was stupid. But I was stupid. I was young. I could play the clarinet, but I was not ripe yet in any kind of way. And looking back, I thought maybe this was the first of many, many lessons to show me that I'm still young and still have a lot to learn, which probably saved my life, because having such a great big career at 23 could have meant that I thought I was the best and I would stop learning. But I was reminded on and on again to have to develop that beginning, this start, which I got, which is great, will only mean something if I continue to develop. And these old wise people who I had on my side were always able, although I was a very stubborn person, to get into my head and to explain this to me ever and ever, over and over again. And I'm grateful to that. So I think this was the starting point of a very, very important opportunity, which I used for my best, listening and taking advantage of this fantastic orchestra and this fantastic conductor, which knew Weber much better than me, yes, anyway, and to take this opportunity and grow with it and use this growth for the rest of my career.
What is important to you when you teach?
Well, I have been teaching my whole career. I don't have my own students, but I do a lot of master classes all over the world, and I'm always very interested to find out what clarinet playing in a different country is like, if it is at all different from other countries. Some are. Also the clarinet systems. I live in Germany, so there's a German system here, and there is the Reform Böhm in Holland, and as we know, there are different kind of clarinets and different kind of clarinet playing. I try to listen to my students and see how I can help them. There's always some technical things that can be spoken about, and something you can change and maybe help, some information that can help. Also, particularly in the piece, there is always fingerings and tongue positions, body movements that can help. I've performed most of these pieces, so I have experience on stage with most of these pieces, which means I know how to solve the problem before it comes, which is a big issue for me. Know what the problems can be, solve them before they happen, or don't let them actually happen altogether. And also I try a lot to talk about music and making music. What do you want? Why do you play your instrument? What do you want to achieve when you stand on a stage? How do you behave on a stage? What is your goal as a clarinetist? And to try to help a young person get a reflection of themselves through my eyes. How does this fit into our very competitive world? And what can I do to go the next step to be higher up on the scale of clarinetists in the world?
Did you have jazz lessons to prepare for the American Classics recording?
Well, I was living in New York City, so New York City is full of jazz. I didn't have lessons, but I had a boyfriend at the time who was a trumpet player who could play jazz all the time. And we went to the Blue Note, we listened to Branford and to Wynton Marsalis all the time. He was very good friends with Wynton Marsalis. The Blue Note was like the greatest jazz club. You could go there anytime and just sit and listen and observe and take in all this jazz. I played Copland Concerto already in my studies. I went to Leipzig to play Weber No. 2 and Copland, both new pieces to me at the time, as I still was a student. And I studied Copland Concerto for like a whole year, every day, because I had no CD or no person who could teach me how to do it. There was this old recording of Copland conducting and Benny Goodman, but I didn't like it. And I thought there was more to this piece than I hear, but I didn't know what. And so I was trying to develop with this and not really going to somebody, because Copland is not jazz, but trying to take all this information that I was hearing around me, the tonguing, the articulation, the and put it into the Copland. And somehow, it worked. And then, after playing years of Copland Concerto, I actually really wanted to make a CD of Copland Concerto and make sure that Copland is the classiest piece, not the jazziest, and not to make an American new modern contemporary CD, but to make a jazzy funky CD and put Copland on it to show how jazzy it is. And it worked. I mean, seriously, it was the most successful Copland Concerto recording altogether by then. And nobody played this piece at all in Europe. Nobody touched this piece in Europe. I know Martin Frost did a CD which was fantastic, also very, very long time ago, but also nobody took care of this CD. Nobody invited him to play Copland at the time. It's really strange. Great piece and misinterpreted. So it stayed in the box and suddenly it exploded. All it needed was to be played differently, lightly, Benny Goodman-y, which he didn't trust to do. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And worked my way to it, but no jazz lessons, no.
Which concert will you never forget?
I have a concert which I always remember, which was, I was just reminded of again just recently, 1992, I think, or maybe 1993. Weilburger Schlossfestspiele. My God, I can say it now in German, but back then I could not. With the Württembergischen Kammerorchester Heilbronn, which is another tongue breaking in German. We played Mozart concerto. It was the summer of my life, maybe, because it was after the competition. And no, it was 1993, definitely 1993. Competition was 92 and this was summer 93. We played the Mozart concerto outside because this is an outdoor festival. If it's not raining, the concerts are outside. And you can imagine this scenery of summer in Germany. The light stays on forever, right? So 8 o'clock, it's still light enough to read your program. The orchestra started with some piece, I don't remember. Afterwards came Mozart concerto, first movement. The birds are so loud that we are wondering whether we should continue or maybe try to get them out of the trees around. But it was sort of a great atmosphere and we played the first movement. And I was just thinking as I was going, what's going to happen in the second movement? If the birds are so loud, nobody's going to hear me. And as the first movement ends, you look up, the sky is very dark blue. The birds are not singing anymore, as if just a godly figure came and said, okay, we're ready now for the second movement of Mozart Clarinet Concerto. And it was so mesmerizing. As we started, it was like somebody else came into my body and played the concerto. It was one of those experiences which one has maybe once in a lifetime. And I remember just standing there finishing the second movement thinking, we can't do the third one, we just have to stop now. I mean, it's going to ruin it all. And we took a long pause because everybody felt the same way around me. There was no coughing and no sneezing and no disturbances. We just let it close. And then we started the third movement and it was clapping until the end of times. And ever since, I still meet people who say, I was back then, 93 in Weilburg with Württembergische Kammerorchester. You remember this unbelievable second movement? Every time again. So it was just not just us feeling like heaven on earth. It was also the public who understood that this is a rare moment. And with this orchestra, I play since 30 years, really, almost 30 years now. And every time we meet and play Mozart concerto, it is somehow a reminder of this moment. We just had a Elbphilharmonie concert before Corona and now a Heilbronn concert, which every time we just get off the stage and we just have to hug. So this was a very rare moment for my life.
Can you share a funny anecdote with us?
I was playing with Hessische Rundfunk, which is the radio orchestra of Frankfurt. I was playing Crampon concerto in a classic concert in Frankfurt, and it's of course live on the radio, which is fine. It's a radio orchestra, it's normal. Playing the first movement, I had a nice dress and the strap broke. So about a third of the movement I was playing with the dress sort of under my arm. It's manageable, but not fun. Thinking, what am I gonna do? What do I have that I can wear? And I only really had one dress with me. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna go to the back of the room and just wear my normal clothes because I don't have time to sew this strap. And the first movement is almost finished and I see somebody walking down from the public. I thought, this is normal. People get sick, want to cough, whatever. And as I finish the movement and I'm holding my dress and sort of making an arm gesture saying sorry, comes this person on the stage with a needle and says, "May I?" and takes the needle and fixes my dress back to the place, gets off the stage, gets standing ovations, and we continue. And I don't even know if anybody on the radio really could realize what was going on because the pause was very short. And I thought afterwards, you see, everything can happen. And yeah, life is good to you. And if you just stay positive, and I did not stop, I played the whole movement, some help can come. And it was in a way a great memory. It could have been a horrible memory, but it was a great memory. Another sort of very curious story is my debut at the Salzburg Festspiele. I was playing Mozart Clarinet Concerto and also Chroma. We played Chroma. First part of the concert was fantastic. Everything was great. I was feeling really, really happy. And then the second half came and I should play a Mozart Clarinet Concerto, and I'm playing the first movement. At the end of the first movement, I'm realizing there is a very, very loud beep going on in the audience. And you must understand, to play Mozart Clarinet Concerto in the Salzburger Festspiele was my dream forever. I felt like if I did this, I basically achieved the top of my career. Crazy, because no one concert is the top of a career. But anyway, back then I thought this was it. This was it. I made it. And at the end of this first movement, there's a loud beep in the audience and everybody's starting to look around and to understand what is going on. Is it fire alarm or what? So we finished the first movement and we are realizing this must be a hearing aid, which is beeping in a sort of high level, and you don't hear where it's coming from, what is going on, and the audience is trying to find out what is going on, and it takes 5 minutes, and we decided to go on. So we played this heavenly second movement with a beep which was definitely not in D major, somehow outside the spectrum of our ability to understand where it came from. Of course, the movement was ruined. And we played the third movement. And after this concert, I said, you deserve it, because do not ever put all your power into one concert.
What do you appreciate in a performer?
I think a good musician has to be communicative and inventive. So when you go on a stage, even after many rehearsals, something new should happen, and also something new should be able to happen because you initiate it. So if I throw a ball to my colleague and they don't catch it, it doesn't really help. We need to be on the same wave and be able to invent new ideas also in a concert situation without being able to actually verbally communicate. So this is something that is very important to me. And I need normal people around me. I can't have people who are completely crazy and have some idée fixe about anything. I need openness around me and friendliness in order to sit down and have a good environment to create.
Do you have any advice for the clarinetistas del futuro?
I don't know if it's useful advice, but be yourself, find out who you are and stick to it. I find that many people try to prepare themselves for something that they think is expected from them. But the market is changing all the time, and the market actually does not exist. You make the market. So in order to make the market, you need to at least know what you want out of it. If you constantly try to react to what is there and feed into that, you're too late. What is there exists already. Be ahead of things, be ahead of the market, be ahead of the expectations. Create your own thing. And if you can do that, you'll be successful.